I'd just like to add my welcome to that of Tim to you all, and thank you for joining us to participate this evening. Our stewardship campaign, like any stewardship campaign in the past, is obviously underpinned by the vision that we have for the church. And the vision that we have within the parish of Shear is to be a lively, relevant, loving church that is valuable to God and to our neighbours. And that is the vision that we've had for quite a number of years. And sitting below that vision is our mission. And our mission is to create worship that is accessible, life-enhancing and spirit-filled, provide opportunities for people to grow in faith and maturity, and to serve and challenge one another. And these three elements of our mission statement, I will come back on later when we talk about the goals that we have for this stewardship campaign, because in thinking about what we wanted to do with this stewardship campaign, we very much focused on the mission and aligned our goals with that mission. Of course, as a ministry team and the PCC, who are the trustees of the money, effectively we have a commitment to use our resources in support of our vision and mission, but also to share a portion of our income with the poorest of God's people, whether that is at home or abroad, something that we do through our mission support. And of course, to spend wisely our money, because obviously every contribution that we receive is precious and should not be wasted. So talking about the stewardship campaign itself, what I'd like to do this evening is to just go through our financial position, to talk about the goals we've set for the stewardship campaign and what that means in financial terms, and then looking to how we could possibly achieve those that financial targets and how we could contribute. Following on from that, I'll just talk about what the next steps are within the stewardship campaign, and then hopefully we'll have time for a question and answer session at the end. Everything that I present this evening will be distributed, not necessarily in this presentation format, but information will be sent out in the coming weeks via email and in the post. So you don't have to worry necessarily about jotting down links or anything like that that may appear in the presentation, because you will receive them in other formats. So if we start off with the financial position, this is our historical income over the past 6 years. 2015, as you recall, was when we had our most recent stewardship campaign. And what I've tried to do is actually to separate out from the total income, income that is related to projects or bequests or grants. So, because what's important for us is very much the regular income. So if you can see, obviously there is differences between the total income and the regular income. In 2015, basically the difference was due to bequests and grants. There's only a small difference of about 8,000. In 2016, the difference was a lot larger at 57,000, and that was largely due to a large bequest of £45,000. 2017, it dropped back again. The difference was 17,000, the majority of which was another bequest. Then in 2018, the difference was approximately 50,000, and this related to the toilet project, which was 35,000 of the 50. 6,000 was bequests, and the balance was largely grants and restricted donations. Then in 2019, the difference dropped a bit to 30,000. 18,000 of that was the toilet project, 5,000 related to the reordering of St. Mark's West End. And then in 2020, the difference was very, very small at 4,000, which was largely due to grants and restricted donations. And when those additional elements are taken out, you then have the regular income. And our regular income has effectively dropped by 32,000 or 18% since 2015, which obviously is further evidence of the need for us to run this stewardship campaign now. So in summary, basically for 2020, our total income was 152,000, regular income was 148,000. Now, how was that 148,000 made up? Well, the majority of it was made up of planned giving. So you can see that 50% or approximately 74,000 was from planned giving. And so I take the opportunity to obviously thank all our regular donors for their gifts. We had in the end of 2020, we had 128 regular donors who were giving either through the parish giving scheme or via standing orders or the planned giving envelopes. They gave 74,000, as I said, and we were then able to claim a further 18,000 nearly through gift aid. So that meant that the total planned giving, including gift aid, accounts for 62% of our regular income, so a significant element. Turning to the other elements of our income, you have the magazine, approximately 23,000, representing 15%. Our rental income, which is primarily from the old parsonage. We normally would receive income also from rental of the old schoolroom, but of course, in 2020 with COVID, income from that was virtually non-existent. Equally, COVID had an impact on our fees, the fees which we received from weddings, funerals, etc. It's at 4% in 2020, nearly 6,000, and the other collections representing 8% or 12,000 pounds. That's from general donations, collections from the wall safe, collections during services, and of course collections during services have significantly fallen in 2020 due to the impact of COVID. So on the flip side of the income, of course, we have expenditure, and again here what I have endeavored to do is to separate out from our expenditure the expenditure that related to the projects. So the difference between the orange and the red lines have primarily relates to the toilet project at St. James and the reordering of St. Mark's West End. And so what we wanted to then do is so that we're trying to compare our regular income with our regular expenditure. So last year, our total costs were £149,000, approximately 2,900 per week. And those costs were made up of the following. The biggest share, nearly £86,000, goes in our parish share. and I'm sure people are familiar with the parish share, but for those that may not be, this is the contribution that we make to the diocese, which covers things like Tim's stipend, his training and housing costs, the running of the local ministry programs, the pastoral assistance training and supervision that happens in the diocese, the archdeacon's offices, the Guildford training program that is run, and as well as liaising the costs for the diocese to liaise with other authorities like the local authority, local prisons, NHS, etc. So that's the largest chunk of our expenditure. Then turning to the next largest piece, which is operations and maintenance, effectively the costs of running and maintaining our two churches and any other buildings that are in our care, such as the old parsonage and the old schoolroom. Magazine costs, 14% of our expenditure, nearly 21,000. Then we have ministry costs, 10,000, 7%. That's effectively the costs of the services, music, and any ministry team expenses. Mission support is at 4%. We are currently donating £6,000 per annum to 3 charities, Amos Trust in Gaza, A Chance for Childhood in Uganda, and Barnabas in Manchester. And then finally, we just have a small 2% of our total costs spent on administration. So if we then overlay our regular income with our regular expenditure, what you can see is that effectively we've been bouncing along pretty much at similar levels, and that whilst at the beginning in 2015 regular income was slightly above expenditure, we hit a break-even position in 2016, and in 17, 18 and 19 our actual expenditure, regular expenditure, was above our regular income, meaning that we were very much reliant on non-regular income such as donation, such as bequests and grants. And back in 2020, we are effectively now at break-even once again. And I think that has largely been by chance than planning. And given that obviously our income and our expenditure has decreased as a result of the COVID crisis. So that's an overall a bit of historical information about where our finances are at. So effectively, we are sitting at a break-even position. But we want to move forward, and that's what the stewardship campaign is all about. We've set ourselves some goals that we wish to achieve in order to take the parish forward into in the post-COVID environment. And so we have we set ourselves 3 goals, which we have linked back to the mission statement. So goal number 1 is effectively we've referred to as enhanced local outreach. And this is linked to the first statement in our mission, which is to create worship that is accessible, life-enhancing and spirit-filled. For so many businesses and organizations throughout the COVID, everyone's had to adapt, and the church was no different. And we saw many churches across the country, including our own, having to move their services, their clubs, their activities, the various different groups that were operating from a real environment into a virtual environment. And one of the things that we have been able to do as a result of that is to reach more people in the parish than we have necessarily in the past. And that is clearly something that is a positive outcome of of the last year, and something that we would want to retain. And so in order to facilitate this enhanced local outreach, what we are aiming to do is enhance our audio visual capabilities so that services potentially can be live streamed. And for those perhaps that's not necessarily every and all service, but at least that gives us the capability to do some streaming. It also gives us increased capability to do more adventurous things in terms of our actual services. Our second goal that we set ourselves was enhanced interaction with families and children. And this links in with the second statement within our mission, which is to provide opportunities for people to grow in faith and maturity. I have to say I was very thankful that all of my children were at university or in the workplace during COVID, because I'm not quite sure how I would have coped having to homeschool any of my children, like so many people have had to do over the past year. And I think what the last year has shown is that a lot of, particularly our young children, have been very much deprived of the opportunity of mixing and interacting with their peers, whether it's in the playground at school or in the back gardens of their homes. And we feel that what we wish to do moving forward is really to enhance the interaction we have with families and children. And in order to do that, we want to employ a part-time family and children's worker, which will, for example, enable family feast service to increase in frequency from maybe monthly to weekly. The benefice has already very well, quite a way down the road in terms of looking for a family and children's worker. And so what we would want to do is basically, once such a worker is identified, be able to commit to a particular number of hours of that worker who will be working across the benefice. And then our third goal, which we refer to as enhanced support services, relates to the third statement in our mission, which is to serve and to challenge one another. And the key thing here is that we want our ministry team to be serving us as a congregation, serving the local community. What we do not want is our ministry team being burdened with a lot of the administration that comes with running a parish such as ours. And so from that perspective, we very much want to relieve the ministry team of some of the administrative burden so they can go out and do what they do best, which is ministering. And so to that end, we would be looking to increase the level of administrative support provided to the ministry team, because we haven't had a parish secretary for some time now. And so we would be looking to remedy that so that the ministry team can spend more time serving us. So in terms of what do we think this is all going to cost and what is our financial target? What we are aiming to do is to increase our income by at least £30,000 per annum. We have already done some research into the costs associated with each of the goals that we have set ourselves. But for simplicity stake, let's call it, we've just literally assigned 10,000 to each of our goals. I mean, some of those goals may cost more, and we may have to draw on our reserves or draw on bequest income, for example. But what we're trying to achieve here with this stewardship campaign is to generate sufficient additional income so that we can achieve these three goals and ensure that we're able to continue with this not only for the next year, but for many years to come. So how do we think we can achieve this goal of at least £30,000? Well, let's have a look at the current situation. So this is a profile of weekly donations. So we have 128 donors that give on a regular basis. And this is split basically showing how much each of those donors gives on a weekly basis. So we start with the minimum at the end of the chart. So we have one donor that's giving 20 pence per week. We then move to the median, which is £5.58. The average is £11.10, and the maximum we have is £82.13 being donated per week. So how do we then compare? Is this good? Is this average? Is this not so good? So if we then look at what is happening in parts of the country, the average weekly giving for the entire Church of England is £14.10. In the Diocese of Guildford, it's £21.50. And in the parish of Shear, it's £11.10. So despite us being one of the wealthiest parishes within the diocese, we are donating at a level which is less than 50% of the diocese. And then when we look more broadly across the whole of England, we are donating at a level of 80% of the national average. And when we bear in mind that there are significant dioceses throughout the country that are very deprived, and some of the more deprived dioceses, particularly in the north of the country, we see there that their average weekly giving levels are higher than the parish of Shear. Now, I know that we live in a parish environment, in a village environment, and so often there is calls on us to support quite a wide range of activities within the parish, whether that's the local school, our sports clubs, our village halls, the surgery through Salve, and so there are many pulls on our purse strings, shall I say, from a number of different organizations, and which you could argue that perhaps someone living in a city environment in the north, in a northern diocese, may not have so many calls on their generosity. But that being said, I do feel that our level of £11.10 per week on average is not something we should be particularly proud of. So looking at our goal of trying to get our income up by at least 30,000, then one way we can do it, obviously, is to increase our average donations. So if our 128 regular donors giving an average of £11.10 per week, if all of those donors were able to contribute an additional £3 per week, then our income would rise by 20,000. And that would bring, that £3 a week would bring us up to the national average for England. If we were to increase, every donor was to increase their donations by £5 a week, then our income would rise by 33,000, and that £5 would bring us halfway between the current gap that we have between ourselves and the rest of the diocese, and clearly would exceed our current target of 30,000. And if we were to bring our average weekly donations up by a further £10, so bringing us in line with the average that exists in the Diocese of Guildford, then we would increase our annual income by £66,000. Obviously, another key way of meeting our target of £30,000 is simply to increase the number of donors, regular donors that we have. Oops. In 2015, we had 157 donors giving regularly. As I said, we are now at 128, so we've had a drop of 30 donors in the past 6 years. If the average weekly donation was to remain static at £11.10, and we increased our number of donors by 10, then our income would rise by 6,000 per year. If we increased by 20, obviously it would go up by 12,000. And if we were to increase our number of donors by 30, so to get us back up to the same level or the same number of donors we had back in 2015, then we would increase our income by £18,000 per year. So it goes without saying that the easiest way for us to achieve our goal of at least an extra £30,000 per annum is a combination of both increased average donations and more donors. It's important to emphasize, I think, that every donation, no matter how large or small, is a gift that will enable or ensure the ongoing ministry within the parish. And I also appreciate, as does the ministry team, that for some existing donors, personal circumstances do change, and it may be that existing donors need to reduce or to maintain their current level of giving. And I think this is particularly relevant given the extraordinary economic circumstances that we find ourselves in as a result of COVID. So I think, as Tim has mentioned, we want to ensure that everyone reflects on how much they can give and ensure that their level of giving is appropriate. Turning now more to the practical elements, I suppose, of the stewardship campaign. How can we contribute? And our preference would be to receive regular donations via the parish giving scheme, which is run by the Diocese of Gloucestershire. I think one of the key benefits of receiving regular donations via the parish giving scheme is that we are able to receive those donations together with the gift aid element on the 10th day of the following month, which means that we as a parish do not have to apply for gift aid, which is a process that we do on a quarterly basis, and which means that we can have a lag of up to 4 months before we receive the gift aid, which is obviously has a adverse impact on our cash flow. So, you know, the parish giving scheme is a direct debit scheme. So also donors will have the protection of the direct debit guarantee. It's a scheme which is run by a church-owned not-for-profit charity, and it has the backing of the Archbishop's Council. You know, it is a very financially sound organization, and one which is being run very efficiently based on the experience we've had to date. So if you would like to become a donor, if not already a donor, then you can register automatically online. And there's a link here, but as I've said, this link will be distributed via other means in the next week or so. So you don't need to rush to jot it down. It will, if you go to that link, it will take you directly to a dedicated page linked to our parish. And you simply have to click on the Pledge Your Gift button at the bottom of that page. And then it will take you through a very easy step-by-step process. You'll be asked how often you wish to donate, whether it's monthly, quarterly, yearly, whether you are eligible for gift aid, whether you wish to opt in for inflationary increases each year, etc. If, however, anyone was wanting to enroll for the parish giving scheme and would prefer to do it in a more traditional paper form, then obviously please feel free to contact me and I can provide you with the appropriate forms. If anyone was to be donating via the Charities Aid Foundation bank account, those bank accounts do not accept a direct debit, and so you would need to set up a standing order with us in order to make donations via your Charities Aid Foundation account. And if you want to contact me, I can provide you with appropriate bank account details for your standing order. If however, you are already donating by the parish giving scheme and would like to modify the amount of your gift, you actually can now do that directly online, and the link is shown there. That link would then take you to a page, a dedicated page for managing your donation. Here, again, you just have to follow the instructions in order to activate your account. The system will hold, stores the email address that you will have given when you first registered, and then that will assist you in the process of activating your account. And once you go in, it's a very simple process to modify the amount or the frequency with which you give. This service actually was only launched by the parish giving scheme yesterday. So you are amongst the first in the country to become aware of it. Of course, the parish giving scheme team is still there if you wanted to modify your donation by either sending them an email or giving them a call or even writing to them. If your circumstances prevent regular giving, but you would like to make a one-off donation, then you can do so via our parish website. There, the link, I'm sure we're all familiar with it. And then it's a simple case of selecting the single donation button on the home page. Of course, what's happening here? My first, oops, now I've tried to link to the parish. Okay. Of course, we are still thankful for donations coming in by other means, such as standing orders, which are obviously necessary if you operate a Charities Aid Foundation account. But I will be writing to those directly to those donors currently giving by standing order, requesting them to move to the parish giving scheme if they were comfortable in doing so. Of course, we still have the white envelopes that can be placed on the collection plates during services, and hopefully it will not be too much longer before we get back to regular services in both of our churches. And of course, legacies are another way in which we can continue to contribute to the ongoing work of the church in our parish. So next steps in terms of the stewardship campaign. Information will be circulated next week via email and in the post, and that information will contain a lot of what I've talked about today, and also obviously all of the links that I've shown in the previous slides. And I think what we would, and the ministry team would request everyone to do, is just to reflect on what level of giving you are comfortable with, and if you are able to give, then to think about the method of giving that best suits you. I want to stress again that the level of the ministry team, and I would like to stress that the level of giving must be something that you are comfortable with. And as I've said, it may be that for some, the level of giving, their current level of giving needs to stay the same or even potentially reduce. Obviously, if you have any queries, then feel free to contact me. I don't think over the next coming weeks you'll have to worry too much about the stewardship campaign slipping your mind, as you will be regularly reminded of it, either through the parish magazine or various social media posts, as well as, of course, pronouncements from the pulpit by our ministry team.